everybody, it's Vanessa from Heroes and Villains again. Well, I'm assuming you've already watched the video that we made up about the various meanings of the symbols on the Heroclix dials and how to use your cards along with those. And if you're watching this, that means that you're still interested, so hopefully I didn't bore you too much in that video. I realized something that I forgot to go over in the last video was that I said I was going to go over was the powers and abilities card. Now when you're using those power cards that go with your clicks that I was talking about earlier in the last video, I was saying how you can look up the different colored abilities on the powers and abilities cards. Now this came with one of the starter packs that I had picked up a while back. This is actually an older one. This is from back in 2013. There are newer ones, but I don't think the rules have changed too much since 2013. I think the main thing that's changed is vehicle rules, but I don't think these really include vehicle rules. They kind of have those more listed on the website. But if you don't get a starter pack that has one of these, what I recommend is going on whizkids.com or just searching for it online, and you'll be able to find it there and be able to print it off. So there, Steve. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that is the other owner of Heroes and Villains.
And she's with me on purpose.
Yeah. Not sure why. Anyway, so that's the powers and abilities card, and this breaks down everything that I was talking to you guys about in the last video. And so you've got your speed, your attack, your defense, your damage, and it also breaks down other things as well, like combat abilities, objects, the trait abilities, different things like that. So this is a very, very important piece of information that you need. Like I said, if you go online, you can also print it off. Like I have a printed off copy as well that we were using here last night for our Clicks game. So, but yeah, very important piece of information right here. Definitely you'll want to pick this up so that you'll know how to use your abilities and the breakdowns and how all that works. Now, the next thing I wanted to show you guys was the map. Maps are very important because this is the terrain that you're playing on, and they even have their own special coding as well. Now, typically maps that you get, the terrain maps that you get are usually, again, with starter kits or with like the bigger pieces, things like that. And so, as you can see, this is a double-sided mat. So if this video wasn't entertaining for you before, maybe it is now. I don't know. Anyway, so we're just going to ignore the nut job in the background.
Bigfoot sighting!
Sasquatch is more like it. Anyways, so we've got, maybe it's more like the missing link. I don't know. He's hairy enough for that, right? So the breakdown for the maps, there's different line codings and breakdowns of the terrain. So like I said, there's double-sided. So you've got outdoor, which is what's represented here. And then you have an indoor side as well on a lot of maps, sometimes not so much. But this is indoor, and you can see where they've got like a table and chairs set up over here. Please excuse this nap. As I said in the last videos, a lot of my clicks and things survived a house fire. So this had actually gotten wet in the house fire, so that's the reason why it looks a little beat up and stuff. So anyway, so I'm going to look at the outdoor terrain for this because of the fact that it's got pretty much every type of terrain that you're going to need to know about. So if you look here on both ends of the map, you'll see a purple square box, and what this represents is this is your starting line for your team. So each person starts their team out in this front row right right along here, anywhere within the front row. The only time you're going to go to this back row is if you fill up this front row completely and you still have leftover characters that you need to put on the board, and that's where you're going to put them into the back row. So purple line represents starting line, like I said. So your characters have to start off behind this line. Your next... He's over there eating chips, staring at me. I love you too. Goodbye. So your next breakdown of terrain is going to be right here. You'll see blue squares on this map. Right here, right here. This is water terrain. So not all of your characters have the ability to swim. So this is going to be like water terrain, hindering terrain. And this is going to work the same way as these squares here, where you see the green. Again, this is referred to as, this is hindering terrain. So you got your water terrain, hindering terrain. Now, if you have somebody who can only run or walk, both of these terrains are going to work the same way. But if you have somebody with this swim ability, as I mentioned before, like Aquaman, he's going to have special abilities for water, so water's not going to slow him down. If anything, it's going to make him more powerful. So you've got those two different terrains now, and then hindering terrain, like I said, it is what it sounds like. So it's going to slow you down. It's going to make it more difficult to move, but it's got its advantages as well, which I'll go over in a bit here. I just want to finish going over the different types of terrain on the map first. So then, if you look at the map more, I'm just going to fold this in half so we can get a better look at this. When you look here at this map, at this section, you'll see brown lines here. That represents it's blocking terrain. So in other words, this is terrain that cannot be it can't be gone through. So like these are pillars right here, so you cannot go through them unless you have like a superpowered Superman who has like the ability of blowing through solid objects, so that nobody can typically go through these. These come in handy if you have a character that has what's called stealth, so you can hide behind hindering and blocking terrain, and that makes it so that other characters that aren't within line of sight cannot see you, so they cannot target you. So it can come in handy, but at the same time it can be a pain in the neck to deal with, just because of the fact that you have to constantly move around this stuff. Then you got your yellow line here. Your yellow line indicates indoors. So when you see that yellow line anywhere, anytime you see it blocking off an area, that represents that this is an indoor terrain. So this map that I'm showing you right now is considered indoor-outdoor terrain because of the fact that it has some of both in it. This one particular, usually it only has it like 2 quarters where it's indoor terrain. But like I said, this is a good one for showing you all the different types of terrain you're going to see in maps. Then I gotta find it. There's one more type of line that you're going to look for on a map. So right here, if you look, you see a really thick black line. That represents a wall. So again, you cannot move through this unless you have an ability like phasing, teleporting, or if you've got Superman who has the ability to knock out walls, things like that. But unless you have an ability like that, you have to go around this black line. There's no other way to do that. So that's that. And there is one other type of terrain, which I'm going to show you on the opposite side. So this is the indoor side of the map. So when you look at this map, you'll see here, get that glare off of it, you'll see here a red line. The red lines represent elevated terrain. So this, so one level is higher than the other. So this, it's almost like as if this is actually dropping down in, because if you look here at these arrows right over the steps, this says that this is the second level, and then this is the first level. A lot of times you see it the other way around, where towards the center or off to the sides, it's second level, and then whatever the main portion of the map is, That's the first level. But in this situation, it's like you're walking down into an area of the indoor facility. So, and that is significant, again, because of the pictures. If you remember correctly, I had told you some of your characters have flight ability, such as Iron Man, Thor, Superman, different ones like that will have the flight ability. Flight ability means that when they are using that ability, they will be able to go from this area to this area without having to use the stairs. So say you're in an outdoor terrain and there's an elevated area for a building or different things like that, they are able to just go straight. They don't have to use a staircase in order to get into that elevated terrain. They are able to fly so that they get to ignore that that ability or that type of terrain, but it does pose to an advantage for them as well at the same time. But then if you have just like your running and walking ability, which if you remember I had said most characters have, you have to use a staircase in order to be able to get into that elevated terrain or that lower terrain. You can't just, so like, let's ignore this black line. Let's say this black line wasn't here. Okay, let's just say that this is just a solid red line here. Because remember a couple minutes ago I told you black line represents a wall. So let's pretend that wall's not there. And it's just a red line here. That means that if I had a character that was standing here and he wanted to get here, but he had the walking or running abilities, he wouldn't be able to do that from here. He would have to come down here and then use the stairs and then come over and go here. But if you had somebody with the flight ability, they would be able to do that. Again, if that wall didn't exist there, they would be able to just go zoop, go wherever they want on the map. Now you'll have some, like Spider-Man, who technically he doesn't have flight ability, but he has wall crawling, and he can ignore hindering terrain and things like that. So it's almost like he has flight. It's a little bit different, but it's very similar. The other thing, too, is that if you have hindering terrain, flight can ignore hindering terrain. Then swimming would have to acknowledge the green areas, but doesn't necessarily have to have the blue areas. As I said earlier, the water terrain, that doesn't necessarily slow down anybody with the swimming ability. Now, how hindering terrain works. Say I have a character who is here and wants to attack somebody over here, but they have to get closer to do it first. What would happen is they would start to run towards that person, but as soon as they hit this green area, this hindering terrain, they have to stop. They cannot go any further on that particular move, because hindering terrain, it's like as if they're running through heavy brush or a swampy, mucky area, tar pit, different things like that. So it slows them down. It makes it so that they can't move as quickly. So they have to stop as soon as they get to hindering terrain. So unless you have the swimming ability, same thing. When you get into that water area, you have to stop as soon as you hit that area. Now, that also has its pros, because what happens is, all right, so I have somebody who's with running ability, hits that, has to stop. Next move, when they go to move again, what would typically happen is you have to take their speed. And let's assume it's a character with a speed of 10, which, if you remember correctly, that means that they can move up to 10 spaces in a shot. You would have to divide that in half. So that would be 5 spaces instead of 10. And that's the distance that they would be able to move out of that brushy area if they wanted to. They could not move more than 5 spaces because of the fact that they're coming out of hindering terrain, which slowed them down significantly. Now, the benefit to hindering terrain such as this is if you hang out in that area, it actually boosts your defense by +1, because it's basically like you're hiding in the brush and it's making it harder for them to see you. Then you have characters that I mentioned in the other video that have stealth. which a lot of times you'll see that on like Captain America, or you'll see that sometimes you can see that, I think Superman has it at times. I'm not 100% positive, but you'll see that with different characters. Stealth is actually a fairly common one, especially any ones that are involved in combat. What that means, the normal stealth mode is that if you are standing behind blocking or hindering terrain, you are in stealth mode, which means that anybody who's on this side will not be able to see you, so they can't target you. You can target them, but they cannot target you. So that's how that works. It's really neat. It's a great it's a great ability to have. It has its downfalls as well. If you don't use it right, and if you let yourself get cornered, it can definitely have its downfalls as well. But that's your map, and I figure, along with going over the map in this video and the ability cards, I'd also tell you other things that you'd want to have for using in this game. So the other thing that you're going to want is whenever you make an action move, so whenever you move spaces or you make an attack on somebody, that's considered an action move. And when you do an action move, for each action move that you use, you have to have like an action token to put next to that character to represent that you used it on that round. Now, if you remember correctly, I went over the difference between somebody who does not have the Indomitable effect, which means that they can only move once before they have to be rusted for a turn, or Indomitable, which is the shield with the stripe through it. They can move up to 2 times before they have to be rusted and cleared to be able to use again. So you would use action tokens to represent that. Now, that can be anything. You can use... They actually do sell action tokens that basically look like poker chips. But any other tutorials and things like that, they'll tell you can use anything. You can use pocket change. You can use the action tokens that they make for the game, which can be difficult to get your hands on at times. You can use marbles. Like what I did recently is I went to the dollar store and I picked up the little flat pieces of colored glass for $1. You get a whole bag of them and everything. And trust me, you don't need the whole bag for just 2 people to play. So that was like a really easy, cheap thing for us to pick up for everybody who's playing here at night. But you're going to need these, and you'll need a bunch of them because like say you're playing with 5 characters on the board, you could possibly need up to 2 or 3 of these per character. So definitely plan on having something to mark how many moves that character's taken in a turn, so that way you can keep track of that. And again, we'll get into all of that in a separate video. As far as how the moves are concerned, how they work. The other thing that you need is a set of dice. Again, typically if you get like a starter pack, these are the dice that you get. They're just generic D6 dice. So, and you can get special sets. Like I showed you a relic that I had from the Fate Reforged set earlier. So they come with these really neat marbleized silver and orange dice. So you can get special dice like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. If you were to get the action token set that just came out with for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which I got that set. It's really cool. The dice are all black and all the markings are white, but then, like for example, on here you have the Avenger symbol. On the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., it has the shield symbol for the 6th roll, for the 6th side. So, and something else you may want to have, calculator, because remember how I talked about building your set based on a point value? It's just easy to have a calculator nearby so that you know for sure you're doing your math correctly. But if you're good at doing math in your head, obviously you don't necessarily need that, but I always suggest it just because sometimes you can screw up. So yeah, that's that for this video, and we're going to do another one. The next one should be on how to do your basic moves. So see you soon. Hope you're having a great day. And remember, like I said, every Tuesday, 6 o'clock, here at Heroes and Villains, we have Heroclix Night. You're more than welcome to come in and ask questions at any time. Have a great day, you guys.